Monday, happy Monday, everyone. My name is Keiara, and I am the host of Masks Off, a Charity Movement Podcast. We have made it to the 1st of December, and if you are in the area that I live in, then you are welcomed with snow. I hope that you have enjoyed your Thanksgiving weekend. I hope that God really blessed you to enjoy time with whomever you enjoyed Thanksgiving with. I pray that you were filled with peace and that you were in a mindset of reflection and thanksgiving for all that God has done and all that He has given to you and those around you. Okay. So today I am talking about a topic that means a lot to me. It is an area and a way of thinking that I have been diving in with my therapist. As of mid-May, maybe early June, I started this journey back with a Christian therapist, a faith-based believing therapist, with the hope of gaining insight and perspective in my life and what I need now. I truly believe that God has assigned areas like therapy, psychology, psychiatry to provide insight and outside perspective to you as a person and to situations around you, and those areas that are illuminated to you, those are beautiful areas that you can take to the Lord. Because I don't think a lot of times we see our perspective and things that are happening in us in our lives on a day-to-day basis. And because of my level of resiliency, it oftentimes allow me to kind of underestimate what's going on in my life until I go in for my appointments and she's like, did you think about this, or did you look at that, or did you even hear what you just said? And having that person point out things really allows for me to really go back to the drawing board and in my prayer closet and say, God, I didn't even realize this was the case. Can you help me? Can you give me strategy? Can you give me extra strength? All of those things. And so anyway, that's my little plug about maybe it's time to go back to the drawing board. Maybe it's time for you to really start having conversations, not just with yourself, not just with people around you. There's some times where God is allowing you to see things so that you can go get the help that you need, so that then you can take it to the Lord in prayer and you can gain more understanding. I think it's very important that we realize when it is time to go get help. And I don't think a lot of people look at it. I think there's been a misconception about what therapy is for. It is not a replacement for God or His Spirit or the Word of God. It is oftentimes an illuminator. It is essentially going to wise counsel. You are not asking them to give you spiritual advice. You are asking them to give you practical, emotional, developmental insight that you can then go ask God to validate. There you go. And so that was just my little plug. That's not the full episode topic for today, but I just wanted to give you that. And so as of mid-May, June, I started therapy, my round of therapy, because I had realized I was becoming overwhelmed with things in my life, and I wanted to find priority. I wanted to find what was my happy place regarding all of the things that I'm responsible for, as well as learning how to navigate a parent with cancer. So how to navigate that process, how to be strategic, how to be in a frame of mind that is healthy, not just for me, but for those around me, as well as continuing to carry all the things that I manage, which is being a wife, being a mother, being a mentor, being a professional, being a board member, being a pastor's wife, supporting people, doing all these things, as well as not ignoring the fact that every day I am facing with my dad and my family that my father is battling and, fighting against cancer. Okay? And so once I realized that was taking a lot out of me and it was causing me to just, I'm so grateful to work for an organization that is open to me taking wellness days and working remote if I need to. And really, just really having overall wellness. That is one of our core competencies at the organization and the educational institution that I work for. And they walk that. They talk it, they walk it, we live it. And so I'm so blessed to work for an organization that embraces that. And I realized, okay, yeah, I can take a day off. Yes, I can take a remote day. Yes, I can go see my dad. Yes, I can talk to my siblings. But there's something else that I need. And I'm going to the Lord and I'm like, I don't even know what I need. I don't even know how I feel. And it was a blessing to be able to find a faith-based therapist in my area that was not far from my job, not far from my house, that I could go to on a bi-weekly basis, that could really connect with me and align it with the word of God. And I'm just very grateful for that because that was a non-negotiable for me. And I've been learning a lot about myself, about the things that I need. But as we've been talking about all season, we've been talking about transition and growth and God taking you from one level to another level and from faith to faith. It is so important that as you begin to wrap up your year, you start having the necessary conversation with where you are versus where you need to be. And a lot of times before we start writing the vision, before we start a vision board for our next year, before we start these goals for our next year, we must address the areas of improvement. If you do not address these areas, and it could have nothing to do with familial circumstances, it could have everything to do with your physical wellness. It could have everything to do with your mental wellness. It could be procrastination. It could be being easily distracted. It could be an undiagnosed disability. It could be any of those things that you just have not taken care of, but you know you need to pay attention to it. If you don't address these issues, they will come up over and over and over again. And you will find as you are trying to get to the next stage of something, you have kind of like a barrier that is preventing you from going into greatness or going into whatever promotion that you're looking for. The reason is because you have not dealt with the issue. And so today I am going to talk to you about one of my issues. Okay. I'm going to let you into the secret vault of Keiara. Okay. All the time, I do not talk about super deep things. I really don't talk that much on social media at all about what my family is going through with my dad because I think that I try to be very considerate of my parents and what they want to be talked about or exposed or displayed. But I just want to do what's appropriate for them and love on them the way that they need to be loved and talked about and considered. And so I'm going to let you into the vault here. And so today's episode is talking about what do you need now? I think that it is very important as adults, especially adults who have grown up in church, in the faith, adults who have parents that are in their lives, understanding what you need now. This conversation happened because of a therapy conversation. And I went to therapy just thinking that I was going to walk out like different things that I was, having to balance on my job or having to prioritize on my job and conversations that I had with my mentor, my older sister, and things like that. And my therapist stopped me for a minute and she was like, I hear what you're talking about and how you support as a wife and the type of wife you are and your connection and your relationship with your husband. I hear you talking about the way that you're hands-on and you are building an emotional and a connection with your children to where there's shared accountability, how you apologize to your children when things are said or things are done that might have bothered them. And so just being very considerate of your children and being mindful of them as little human beings and not babies of sorts. I see you as a friend and how you want to be considerate and you want to be intentional. I see you as a sister and how you want to be considerate and how you want to be there for your siblings. I see you as all of these things. But then she asked me, well, what do you need? And I said, well, I feel fulfilled in what I need as a wife. Like I feel like my husband is intentional and he is always trying to consider me. And he makes me his biggest priority after the Lord. Like he is very in tune with what I need as a wife, especially this year with all of the things happening with my parents. He has been a backbone. He has been an advocate, all of the things for me. as a friend. Like, my friends give me exactly what I need. And when I don't tell them what I need, they ask me explicitly, like, what do you need from us now in this season? Which is a blessing. As a church, like with my church family, like they go above and beyond to making sure that we feel loved and appreciated and all of those things. No. And so my therapist was like, that's fine. That's great. What do you need as a daughter? And I was shook. I was shook because as an adult, if someone grew up the way I grew up, and I'm sorry, I feel like I'm going to get emotional. For someone who grew up the way that I grew up, with the level of responsibility that I was raised with, I don't think about on a daily basis what I need as a daughter because I don't think that I will receive it. I feel like my parents are at a place where I have to parent my parents. I have to make sure that they do what they're supposed to do. I have to make sure that they go to the doctor. I have to make sure that they're eating right. I have to make sure that they remember to take their medication. I have to make sure that they have the things that they need, that they are being safe. All of those things, especially now, I have to start determining, if this happens, where will our parents be? Or if that happens, where will my mom be? Like, all of these, older conversations that I'm having in my early 30s. And I don't think that my parents respectfully have the capacity at this moment to give what I may or may not need as a daughter. So I haven't thought about it. I can't even say I've thought about it in the last decade. I just haven't. I look at my parents now as like my children / friends. Like, we kiki, we cackle. I tell them about my day, maybe. And like, that's really the gist of where it is. And my therapist was like, well, why have you not thought about that? And I started to have a real conversation with her about how I have learned through experience not to place unrealistic expectations on people. Because where there's unrealistic expectations, it leads to disappointment. I have no unrealistic expectations on God because I truly believe that God can do anything. Anything. Any possible thing. I've seen him realign a spine in me without surgery, without medication. And so there's absolutely nothing that God cannot do. Period. However, I understand that there are just some things that my parents can't give me. There's some things my parents can't do for me, especially where they are now. And I don't put that expectation on them because I feel like it's unfair. It's unfair to put some expectations on someone who cannot fulfill that for you. And then that allows you to be like disappointed on what they just can't do. They just can't give me that. That's like expecting my children to understand all of the language that I have. They're not there yet. So they can't really gain an understanding in context because they don't know. They just don't know. It's not their fault. And so I started having that conversation with her because I'm like, I don't want to give my dad, I don't want to give my mom unrealistic expectations, and I don't want to be disappointed. And so my therapist said, well, what if you realize what you needed as a daughter, but you don't expect it to come from them? And I sat there and I thought about it, and then I got angry. It was like, why are you angry? And I was like, she was like, I see you getting upset. Why are you angry? Like, you're not upset with me, but you're just upset. It feels like you're upset about the conversation. And I said, I am. And she said, well, why? And I said, because other people have these relationships with their parents. Like, I have friends and I am not jealous of those friends. I love that they have that. It makes me admire it. And it makes me want to be an even better parent. My friends can go out shopping and dinner with their parents or their mom. They can go on trips with their mom and they can do all these things and they can have these in-depth conversations. Or their moms can come up and take care of their children for different things. I don't have that. There was a time my parents could do that. They cannot. Now, does that make me sad? If I thought about it long enough, maybe. Is that an expectation that I have for my parents now? No. Because I know that that is not where they are. And so that is not a place in my mind where I can sit. Because that's not fruitful for me. It's not something that causes me peace. And so why would I dive into that? And so we got into that conversation and she said, well, you have to learn to accept something. And I said, okay. She said, you have to learn to accept that you still need these things. And I said, okay. And she said, it just may not be from them. And I burst out in tears because I didn't even start thinking about what I may need as a daughter because I didn't feel like I would be fulfilled in those areas. And then when I started looking at the people around me, the women around me, who God has sent strategically to give me nurturing at my adult age, to give me insight and advisement at my adult age, to give me constructive criticism and feedback in my adult age, to give me support and mentorship in my adult age as a wife and a mother and a pastor's wife and a professional, and how to navigate in these spaces while still being myself and walking in, authentically me. I have women like that in my life, but I didn't look at them as mother figures. I just looked at them as influential women that I respect. And so I don't think I wanted to call them like mother figures because I felt like it would then say that I needed somebody else other than my mom. And I've never wanted my mom to feel like I did not love her and appreciate her and all of those things, because I do. But I had a conversation with my mom last week, and she asked me, like, why don't you break down on the phone with me? Like, why don't we cry together about my dad? And I was like, who's that going to help? Like, what is that going to do for us? If we kumbaya and boohoo together, like, what is that going to do for both of us at the same time? One of us has to, build the other up. One of us has to pull the other one out of the ditch. Like, we can't both be in the ditch together. One of us got to pull the other one out. And I had that conversation with her, like, I can't do that with you. I love you. I do cry. I do not act like this is not a real situation that has impacted our year. But I will not be on the phone with you and both of us be filled with grieving in this season, and neither one of us be able to encourage each other in the Lord. No, that's not my job in this season with you. I can go call my siblings and we cry together and we build each other up and we're good. I can go cry with my sister in Christ. I can go call somebody. I can go talk to my husband about it. I can't do that with you because you're not there. You will stay in it, and I need us to get up out of it. We can cry. We can talk about it. We can dive into the emotional toll that it's taking, but we got to get up out of there. We can't stay in there, because where you stay in there and you lull in it, the enemy will start weaving all of those feelings into where I'm supposed to stay in it, and not even add to the equation that God is good. Not even adding into the equation that my Father is in the hand of the Almighty God. And understanding that at the end of the day, death and life are in the power of the tongue. And at some point, my tongue has to worship the Lord. It has to magnify him in understanding that he is able to do exceeding abundantly above all that I may ask or even think. And so I had to have that conversation with my mom, and she was like, I get it. I understand it. And so we ended that conversation with her understanding, I'm just not going to do that with you. We're not going to be there. I'm going to encourage you. I'm going to laugh with you. I can listen to you. I can be a listening ear for you, but I just cannot be in that space with you and be emotional with you, because it's just not healthy for both of us. And so it was something that really connected all the things that my therapist told me about needing my mom and what I needed, versus what she needed from me, and where I could find nurturing outside of my mom if she could not offer that to me. And so I think about, what do you need now? And I think about the Word of God. One of my favorite books of the Bible is the Book of Ruth. It is one of my favorite books in the Bible. The Old Testament, it's just such a beautiful group of writings and instances where God just shows up and how he reveals who he is, but conceals the name until you get to Matthew. It's so beautiful. And so in the Book of Ruth, we are introduced to the kinsman redeemer. Okay. In the Old Testament, look at that. In the Book of Ruth, Boaz is the kinsman redeemer. In the New Testament, Jesus Christ. Okay. Typology here. In this book, we are introduced to Naomi, who is the wife of Elimelech, who are from Bethlehem, Judah. Okay. And they are Ephrathites. Okay. I hope I said that right. If not, my husband will correct me later. And Naomi and her husband have 2 children, 2 sons to be exact. And they marry 2 women. One is a Moabitess. Her name is Ruth. The other is Orpah. And the first thing to note is that the husband dies. Okay? He's gone. And Naomi still has her 2 sons and their wives. After a decade, they die. The sons, both sons, gone. They gone. Boom. Now it is Naomi, Orpah, and Ruth. They cry together. They grieve together. And after a while, Naomi says, well, I need to go back. I don't really have anything. Because in that time, the men carry the inheritance. They carry the ownership. And Naomi tells Orpah and Ruth, you guys should just go back to your mother's house because I'm too old. I don't have no husband. And if y'all waiting on me to have children, and they get old enough to be married to y'all, it's just not gonna happen. We all gonna be older. And so she said, well, you guys go back to your mother's house. At least you'll have sustenance. At least you'll have what you need. And maybe you guys can go find yourselves another husband in that land. Me, on the other hand, I'm going to go back to Judah because I'm going to try to find if somebody can give me some bread, give me a house to be in, like, help me out. Orpah kisses her mother-in-law and says, peace, I'm going to cry. I'm grieving, but I'm going to go back. Ruth says, I'm not going nowhere. Entreat me to stay with you. Please don't make me not follow you no more. Okay? Because where you go, I'm going to go. Where you lay or stay is where I'm going to lay or stay. Your people are going to be my people. Your God is going to be my God. Okay? And where you are buried, I also want to be there. Wherever you are, I want to be. And since Naomi knew that Ruth was not going to move, she was steadfast in the fact that she was not leaving Naomi. She said, fine. Come on. If you want to go with me, let's just go. They get to Judah. The people start asking, like, oh, is that Naomi over there? I ain't seen her in a long time. Where Naomi at? She said, don't call me Naomi no more. I'm grieving. Based on the situation and circumstances that has happened in my life, I didn't change my name. My name is no longer Naomi. It's Mara, okay, which is bitter. I'm bitter. I don't want y'all to talk to me. This is my new name. And I need somebody to redeem us so that we can have some inheritance. We can have a livelihood. We know as you go through the story, this is when you learn about Ruth and Boaz. And Naomi gives Ruth insight and wisdom in how to gain favor from Boaz. Over time, Boaz became their kinsman redeemer. He redeemed them back into the fold with an inheritance. And Naomi became his wife. And Ruth became his wife. And Naomi became kind of like the support and the helper for that family. And so that is what led to for Ruth to be engrafted into the genealogy of Jesus. All these things to say that it is important that you have wise counsel. It is important that you gain the type of things that you need as a daughter or a son, if you're a man listening to this. But as a daughter, you need it even if it does not come from your biological mother. Ruth was not Naomi's biological child, but that was a child to her. That was someone that she loved, that she could give insight and wisdom to. And she knew that Ruth would listen to her. She knew that Ruth was going to follow the directions that she laid, which would then give her favor, and not just her favor, but then it in turn gave Naomi favor. And that leads me to going into what do I need now? Having a conversation with someone who is my bonus mom, and I went over her house for Thanksgiving. I've gone over her house for the last 3 Thanksgiving, maybe even more. And she invited me because at some point my parents didn't have like Thanksgiving dinner at their house. And I went over there because I was invited. She just invited me. She was like, come on, if you don't have nowhere else to go, come to my house. And we started coming and we never stopped. And the area just hit me different because I had that conversation with my therapist. And in that moment, as I was driving from my therapist's office back to work, it hit me like, God, you have given me this whole time, and I just didn't know what to call it. A lot of times we can't fully appreciate what God is doing in the season that you're in because you're still looking back at what you don't have. And I'm so appreciative that God has begun to change my perspective about what I don't have versus what He has already given me. Because He knew what I would need from the beginning. And so after He knew what I would not have, But what I needed from the beginning, he started to align people in my path and in my life to make sure they were where they needed to be for when I got into the season that I am in now. For that, I am grateful to God for. And it makes me appreciate God even more after talking to my therapist about it, because it hit me like, God, you love me enough that throughout every season of my life, you gave me exactly the pool of people that I needed to get me to my next and my next and my next. And where I am now, God, you have aligned me perfectly with people in this time and in this season to get me what I need to get to where I need to be. And for that, I am grateful. And so I think about, what do I need now as a woman, as a daughter? I realized I needed insight. Like I need mentorship. Even as a parent, I love talking to other parents, especially more seasoned parents that have adults now, or they have teenagers now, where I can sit and kind of talk about how to be an impactful parent, how to listen to my children, how to advocate for them, how to leave the space for them to be authentically themselves, how to be, how to continue to cultivate a household that is creative, and a household that also has order and an intentionality for our fellowship with Christ, and a household that makes it, fun to be saved, but they also do sports and they also love the art. That type of household that they're raised in the fear and the reverence of the Lord. They know the Lord. They have a relationship with God. They can go pray by themselves. They don't always need me. And so in doing so, it makes me excited, because I am essentially giving them things, a lot of things that my parents gave me, but some of the things that my parents didn't. Some of the things that I learned from other women and men that really taught me along the way. And so it really gives me a different insight on what it means to be a mother in this day and time. And so questions that I thought about in terms of like what I need now, that you might be asking yourself, especially as you're starting to wrap up this year, if you've been doing as much reflection that I have been doing, you have been starting to think like, what do I need to do better? Where are the areas that I need support, and where can I find that support? I want to answer some questions for you, because maybe we're both in that same season as we're in the first week of December. I thought about, like, as an adult woman, what do I find myself needing now that I didn't know I needed when I was younger? I think at the time I needed someone to look at me as Keiara, the girl, versus Keiara with her accomplishment. I started accomplishing things at a rather young age. And I always wanted people to just look at me as a person. I don't need you to look at me as the singer. I don't need you to look at me as the speaker, or the future this or the future that. I wanted somebody to look at me as Keiara, the person. Like, what do you need? Goofy Keiara, insightful Keiara. Like, what do you want? What do you need? What do you want to talk about? I wish that I had gotten that a lot more, because it would have made me embrace my personality a lot earlier, and not to think that I had to be somebody other than myself. And now, being where I am, I fully embrace myself, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I really love this person. Like, I can be by myself and crack myself up, because I love who God created me to be. I think she's top tier. And the fact that it took me so long to embrace her, it's a reflection of the things that I may or may not have received enough of when I was younger. How is navigating life without certain aspects of my mom shaped the woman I am today? It has shaped me to be very well-rounded, because I got a lot of what I needed as a woman from my older sister, who is my sister mom, Jennifer. Shout out to her. It has made me appreciate every person in my life. It has made me appreciate every person that speaks life into me, every person that does anything for me, because people don't have to do that. Like, somebody doesn't have to go out of their way to speak life into you. Somebody does not have to go out of their way to text you or call you or message you or encourage you. So when people do that for you, it is a blessing, because everybody does not get that. Everybody does not get that support, especially when it's not from your immediate family of sorts. Like, the fact that you can still get that is an honor and a privilege to receive. And so it has helped me navigate because it's made me very appreciative. It has made me very resilient. It has made me a fighter because I understand that you may not get everything you want in the package that you want it to be in, but sometimes you have to look at your perspective in a different way. You have to see it the way that God sees it and appreciate it the way that God has designed it and the way that He's given it, especially in certain seasons of your life. What areas of your identity require the most rebuilding or redefining as you got older? I think it's just accepting who I am, like accepting not just the call on my life, but exactly who I am and not changing. Like, yes, we engage differently with different groups of people, but I am myself everywhere I go. If I'm going to be who I am, I'm going to be who I am. I'm not going to fake it for nobody. I'm not going to like pump fake for nobody. I'm just not. Who I am is who God created me to be. I embrace it. Of course, there are areas where God is always reshaping and shifting and cultivating for me to be exactly where He wants me to be. I think embracing exactly who I am, the way I am, why I am her, it is something that I've had to grow into. But now that I'm here, I'm like, I should have been this all. I should have been this the whole time. Okay. What lessons did you have to teach yourself that you once assumed that maybe my mom would naturally provide? I think I really had to teach myself how to take care of myself. My mom did a lot of things well as a mother. Like, she was great at taking care of us, making sure that our hair was done, making sure that we looked great. She did a wonderful job at making sure that we always went to the doctor. We always did those things. She did a great job at making sure we always were fed. Our house was always clean. My mom did not do a great job at taking care of herself, like taking time out for herself, like going to do stuff for herself. Like, no, I'm not doing this for you guys. I'm going to go, I don't know, I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to go buy myself something. I'm going to go get a massage because I feel stressed on my shoulders, or I'm going to go to a chiropractor so I can get myself, realigned. So I'm feeling my best, or I'm going to go on a trip if I want to because I just want to be by myself. I was not raised that way. Like, my parents never went on trips. We never went on a family trip. Maybe two. And one was with our church. Actually, for a funeral. But anyway, like, we didn't do those things. Like, we didn't go on family trips at all. And so being there now, I had to teach myself that that was a priority. Like, taking my children on trips to see new things is a priority. Doing things for myself is a priority. Much things that I do for my children and for my husband, I should put so much intentionality in doing it for myself and celebrating myself, because my children need to see that I am happy. My children need to see that I love myself. My children need to see that I value myself, because when they are ready to start dating, when they are ready to start looking at someone, seeing what they have to offer, I want them to say, well, my mom cared about herself. She cared about us. She did things for us, but she went on trips, and my mom did this, and she took us here. These are all the things that they did. And I love that. And I've always wanted that. And we used to ask my mom, like, what did she want to be when she grew up and things like that. I had to teach myself to never live with regrets. Like, I'm going to do it. Like, if I want to go back to school, even with children, I'm doing it. If I want to learn a new skill, get a new certification, I'm going to do it, because if I have breath in my body, there's an opportunity for me to grow. And so I think that that's a lesson that I learned from my mom. And that's something that even she told me, like, I wish I would have done this, or I wish I would have done that. And when she looks at me and the things that I share on Facebook or LinkedIn about, like, things that I do or areas that I'm growing in, she's like, I wish I would have done that, or I wish I would have moved forward in those areas. I don't want to get to my older years in life and realize that I should have done a ton of stuff differently. I want to do it now. I want to change and shift now, so that when I get older, I can say, I remember when I did this, even though it was hard, versus I never did this and I should have. What emotions do still rise up for me when I think about just areas that I don't get from maybe my mom's guidance or my parents' guidance. I guess sadness, frustration a little bit, because I think all of us, when we grow up, right, we have a thought process of how our children will be raised with with your parents as their grandparents. And you think about, oh, they're going to do this and they're going to do that, and they're going to go on trips. We're going to go on family trips. And this is like, in my head, I had what reality would look like now, especially in my 30s. And that is not the reality that I live in. And if anything, I don't get angry about it. I do become sad, or I do get frustrated, especially when I'm like, I'm going to Texas to see my niece and my sister and my nephew and my brother-in-law. Like, parents, you guys want to come? Now, and I'm like, come on, we can all go. Like, our whole family can go. And just that, it really makes me sad, because it's not the reality that I thought that I would get. And the conversations that I've had with my siblings and my husband and with the Lord is, you cannot change where they are and where you are. But you can ask God to shift your expectation to where you stop becoming angry about an area that you cannot change. And I'm saying angry, but I really mean frustrated. Stop becoming frustrated in areas that you can't change. I can't change that. And instead of me, really accepting that and asking them to fill those spaces that they can be a part of, sometimes your brain just wants to repeat the same things. And I can't do that. I can't grow like that. If I could describe my healing in seasons, what season am I in right now? The season of literally His grace is sufficient. I think about all the things that I am supporting and helping my parents with right now, and the many times that I could become frustrated because, like, the stretching of it all and the level of support and the level of grace that is extended, and all I can think about is His grace is sufficient, because it is by His grace that I am where I am, doing the things that I'm doing to help. And that's all I can think about. It's like His grace is sufficient. I do check-ins every day with my husband, just talking through the day and everything that goes on and where I am, so that I am not faking it. And God is good. Like, His grace is so sufficient for me. God has given me the grace also to bow out in certain situations. Like, I can't do it. This is a hard day for me. Like, I just need to bow out for the day. And God has given me the grace to not feel guilty about it, but just to be where I am and not to feel bad about it. And I know that that's God, and I know that that's growth, because that was an area that I struggled with very greatly in past years. What has God supplied me with that I didn't even know to pray for? Women that would support me without me asking for it. God I feel like He just drops people into my life at random points in my life, and they just will not stop connecting with me. Like, I find that when I am in certain seasons, I am hesitant to reach out, because I know that everybody is busy. I know for a fact that everybody is doing something. Everybody is going through their own levels of trials and tribulations and circumstances, and they're trying to prioritize what is important to them. But the fact that people will reach out to me and they'll, tell me they're praying for me, or when can we meet up, or I'm coming to see you, or can we meet to talk? All these things. People don't have to do that. I did not expect that happening for me, especially now, and the fact that God has just given me some amazing people, some amazing women who care about me, who check on me, who make sure I'm good. It is something that I cannot put a price tag on. It is invaluable to me, and I'm just very grateful for that. Okay, this last area, what do I wish that people knew about women or adults like me, especially with this conversation? It is that talking about situations like this is not the same thing as talking bad about the people that you love. You can talk about a situation that may be traumatic or have an emotional toll on you without equating or automatically saying that those individuals are bad people. I don't think that my parents are wrong for the stages that they're in. I think that there are areas that I should share, can share, and must share in order for people who are in my situation to feel advocated for, and that they can receive help and support to move forward. There are people that are in the same predicaments that I'm in that will never say anything for fear of being looked at a certain type of way. Number one, I don't care. Number 2, God has confirmed it. Number 3, if I have been delivered, if I have been redeemed in certain areas, why should I not testify of God's goodness and how he is able to change a situation? The problem is a lot of people are going through situations, and instead of them saying it, instead of them proclaiming it so they can get help or they can get delivered or they can influence other people, they will be silent. And I refuse for any of our voices to be silent in this generation. If there are traumas that you have experienced that God has brought you over, you might need to tell somebody because maybe they're going through it too behind closed doors, but nobody will say it. I remember when I was facing what it meant to lose a child, what it meant to go through miscarriage and postpartum depression. Nobody in church talked about this area. Nobody. I didn't hear it. If y'all heard it before 2018, let me know. I didn't hear it. And all of a sudden, I got messages from women in their 60s and their 70s saying, in 1968, I had a miscarriage. And from then on, I've never been the same. 1968, 1976, like, you are talking about people who have been working in the body for years and years and decades, and they've never talked about this area of pain because it was a taboo subject. I refuse to let that hinder me. And what I want people to understand is just because you talk about something does not correlate to the fact that you think that those people are bad. It just means that this area is worth talking about. Okay? I want you to understand it, and I'm super passionate about it because there's so many people that I talk to that will not be loosed because of what they feel like people will look at them as. Whom the Son has made free is free indeed. You're free. You are free to be honest. You are free to live a life that God is pleased with. You are free to talk about God's goodness, even if it pricks other people. You got to do it. You got to do it. If you can get up and testify about your new car, God rescued me from this, and he gave me a new job. He gave me this check in the mail that I didn't expect. You could also testify the fact that you were stuck in your mind about what you were missing from an area of your relationship with your parent, but God provided exactly what you needed to grow and to heal. That's a testimony if I ain't never heard one. Okay? And so what do I need now? I need to continue to live in purpose. Continue to live with the understanding that the testimonies that God has given me, somebody needs to hear. And it may not be a typical one. It may not always be a comfortable one for certain people, but it's still a testimony nonetheless. And I can speak on it and I can worship God in it, even in the middle of it. And so I celebrate the fact that God has allowed for me to have these hard conversations with my mom and have these hard conversations with my dad and to sit in a place of healing to where my parents also understand. They have been in a place of understanding with me throughout this season of my life. And I don't stray away from those hard conversations. And God also gives me the wisdom to see when my parents are able to take in those conversations with me. And I think that speaks on God he's just so intentional as a father. Their father, he's my father. And so he knows what they need. He knows what I need. And he knows how to intertwine it just when we need it. And so I'm grateful for that. But anywho, I am really wrapping up this year understanding that God has taken me to a place of deeper understanding, deeper appreciation for who he is and what he does for me and for my family and what he's doing all around me. God is doing things even when we don't even realize it. We don't even see it sometimes. And he is just realigning and adjusting and changing and shifting. And so I'm very grateful for that. And I hope that as we start to go deeper into the month of December, God begins to unravel what he wants to do for us. Not just what he wants to do for us, but what he wants to change and shift and transform in us. And I hope that we're ready for that transformation. I hope that you got something from this video. I hope that you start asking yourself, what do you need now? Not just from this video, but also from the audio podcast too, if you're listening. But what do you need now as a daughter, as a son? What do you need now from the Lord? What do you need now from people around you? And if you cannot get it from the people that you think it should come from, start thinking in your mind, like, God, who have you given me in my life that can speak to those areas that I need healing, restoration, support in? I love you. I hope that you got something from this. I hope that you like this video or this podcast episode. Share it with somebody that you know. If you go on YouTube at any time, which most of you probably do, I hope that you subscribe to the Charitea Movement YouTube channel. I pray that you are blessed. I pray that you had an amazing Thanksgiving. I love you. And the only one stopping you is you. See you soon.